Hi, today's program is just going to be frank. I'm going to just talk about things that I've known for years. I've talked about on my radio show years ago on Area 52 America, and I've written about. And today it's just basically about scientific dialectical materialism and the book of Habakkuk and time transmogrification and the book of Habakkuk and legal determinations without lawful examinations with no full consideration or remedy of law and the book of Habakkuk. This is what I'm going to be talking about because it's very important. I've tried to get this across for many years. I've been talking about the time transmogrification since 2005 on my show Area 52 America when law becomes alien to the common people. It is a play on words. 52 times the word law is used in the Constitution. Nowhere is the word legal. In the 14th Amendment, the word illegal was used when men were kept slaves by legal determination with no consideration or remedy of law. Remember that no consideration and no remedy. And I want folks to know that their own words, the legal system is considered the fourth invisible branch of a three branch system. And we overlook this all the time. So today I want to get into how it works in Habakkuk, how Habakkuk is pointing at us. I know a lot of preachers have said to me that that book was for the past, but the fact is, in the book itself, it says it is going to tarries. And it also says right under it, it will not tarry, telling me times that this thing there is going to try to grow many times through history. And it says also in Habakkuk, at the end it will come. We'll see it at the end. And it also says the breadth of the earth, and that's the whole earth. And it also says all nations. And I believe America is part of the apparatus that brought us to where we're at today. And I'm going to point out verses. I'm going to explain to you what scientific dialectical materialism is because people talk about it now. I've noticed here in the last few years, a lot of people are getting online and calling out communism. It's always been here. It's been on the planet forever. It's called scientific dialectical materialism. And what is scientific dialectical materialism? It's the control of all math in existence. And we know God, His Son, Christ, and the Holy Spirit, they own all the math. God knows where every atom, every molecule is from the beginning of time. And we all know as Christians that Satan wants to control this environment. So it's a war of math, and it's a dialectics, while that was created by science in the recent hundreds of years, but actually it's always been a war to control the math and to turn the math against God's people. And that is controlling time, as the Bible says, and basically time transmogrification occurs. And how does that work? What am I saying? Well, the devil tries to control the math of time and turn it against the people and destroy them. Transmogrification is turning something into something very gross, and it becomes humorous. It's humorous to the person or creature or the unseen beings that have done that to God's creation. So that's where the word time transmogrification comes from, and that's exactly what's happening. So we understand. And folks, communism, you want to call it communism? You can call it communism because that's not a defining term. A defining term is scientific dialectical materialism. And I'm going to throw that up on the show and where it came from. I'm going to explain that so you folks understand out there. Because I've tried to tell a lot of people this, explain it to them, and it's very, like I said, in simple forms, it's who controls the math of existence, and math is time, and time is math. You understand? It's that simple. It's that simple, folks. And any country in the world, and I talked about this in 2005 on Area 52 America, people were talking about communism. Folks, I'm sorry to tell you this. Anyone that controls the math diabolically, like the paper currency that we have, that just happens to be on hay and stubble, you know, linen comes from straw. Did you know that? And that's what your dollar's made of, folks. And if you read in Habakkuk, it talks about where God allows the people become weary for their labor because it's against them. Because who's doing it? Satan. Why are the people weary from the fire, God says? It's because the dollar is fire. It's hay and stubble, folks. And Satan takes the math, he takes the numbers on the dollar, and you agree to it by a contract. That's the beginning of the end times, folks. Handshake agreement, meeting of the minds, and a written contract or an image that tells a story. You have it in the palm of your hand every day. You have allowed Satan to dictate the math. The math on the bill is God's math, but the contract is you surrendering it, his power, surrendering your grace, your tools of your trade to him to use against you. That's simple, folks. You don't need a degree. You don't need to go to every college or Bible college in the country. It's right before your eyes. It's simple, it's incredible, and it's happening before our eyes, and Habakkuk is being ignored. Oh, and by the way I pronounce Habakkuk, I've heard different ways of people pronounce it. I hear Americans say it one way, and I hear the Jewish people say it another way. So to me, it's up in the air. Maybe some experts out there can straighten me out. So I'm going to jump back to a couple of my programs that were 20 years ago, where I talk about the transmission of time, how Satan intercepts it and turns it against you. Now, did you get what I was saying? The math on the bill is owned by God. Any numbers, the fives, the tens, the 20s, the 50s, the hundreds. But the contract before you, drawing the past to the present to take total control, and the way the agreement works, as I said, a meeting of the minds, handshake agreement, and an image that was formerly carved out of lead and then printed on paper and passed around to the world to create the great snare, Habakkuk 13, 14, Habakkuk 1, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. You need to know this because everything that says and Habakkuk is describing perfectly America. Perfectly America. The great snare. Every bill has a net on it, every bill has a snare on it. Capturing the world. The pledges. You pledge to it. Every time you pass from one hand to the other, it's a pledge. You have agreed. I agreed to this. I go along with this. See, and I believe that it was the beginning form. It goes all the way back to the founding fathers. Don't you believe for a minute that when they were printing all that paper back then, too, that they weren't making sure the balances of silver and gold were in the banks? They never done that, and they've never done it in history. And remember this is so important that when America finally got off the gold and silver standard, all the nations of the world went along with it. Every one of them had no problem letting the people taking the paper and controlling the people. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. Controlling the people. They did that years ago. It's been going on for years. Everybody is acting like they discovered something, folks. You're 100 years behind. You don't even believe in your own God. God told you powers and principalities in high places. The devil's controlling everything. He's been doing it all along. You've been asleep all these years. A lot of you I see online talking about communism. You're still far off. You're still not totally on target. And you don't believe in the Lord. You don't. Because the fact is, it has been going on, and for years, you folks would not listen to people, not just like me. There's others out there that understood it. Others that understood it 30, 40, 50 years ago. Great minds that tried to show it, and they were called conspiratorial theorists. And they never got off the ground, and they had to spend their whole lives on the edge of people thinking they're one step out of a straitjacket. It's been happening all along. Nothing new. And they've been grabbing people on this earth, the demons, and switching them over. God tells you what he does to them. He gives them a reprobate mind. They're all before your eyes. It's clear as day. Fact is, it's incredible that it took us this long to finally wake up and understand what's happening. Anyways, a few of my shows, just a few minutes from each one. You can hear me talking about this 20 years ago. I've been talking about this since 2005 and 6 and 7 when I was on here in Florida, in Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete area, and Sarasota, when I used to talk about this stuff.
The deep science, the deep thought by many of those who believe they are the gods of the intellectual machine and believe that what is yours is theirs. It's about materialism. And we see it here today in America. It's showing its signs very clearly and how these things are operating here.
Okay, Tony. Now, who has knowledge of this philosophy? And who are the believers in this philosophy? And who are the ones in general that has no knowledge of this philosophy at all?
Well, obviously, Mike, those in power, the communists, are the ones that believe in it for sure, but there's many others who I think have adopted to that formula. But quickly, that formula is based on this short definition in which they recognize it and how it operates. But it was founded, it is the philosophy of Karl Marx, which he created by taking the dialectics of Hegel, marrying him to the materialism of Feuerbach, abstracting from that concept the inevitable progress in terms of the conflict of two interacting opposites called the thesis and antithesis, coming together at a critical point where one overthrows the other, giving rise to the synthesis, and applying it to history and the economic progress of the nations in which they are overthrowing or taking from behind the scenes. And this is a revolutionary movement, not always a physical presence, but a intellectual movement. And these forces operate with more success than those forcefully, until the people are held down so far that they can't fight back. And the communists, they have many methods in which they operate. Even through the environmental movement, years ago they were called, they used to call the communists watermelons because they were red on the inside and green on the out. Because environmental movement, if it's used properly, can accomplish the same goals in which the communists are seeking, and that is to adopt policies to limit man's use of his property and movement and manufacturing. Ultimately, their goal is always to come in. They even support religions. They'll come in on one point actually backing ideas that you would believe they would never back until they're ultimately in, and then they actually turn it on the people and undermine them. In this country, I believe it happens in such a manner that both right and left become our legal determinators. They have legally infringed on many people's independence, both right and left. The fact is, both of them are incrementally penetrating our lives. And basically, the arguments in which we face or see on a daily basis don't identify those elements in which penetration occurs through the paper money system. All those are legal determinations which I'd like to challenge. That the identification of law in which America was founded pointed out how crucial it was to have fixed measurements of the paper money supply.
All right, folks, thank you for listening to me today. I'm going to cut it short. God bless you. God watch over you. And remember, Thessalonians 1:5. Are you a child of the day or are you a child of the night? Take care, folks. I'll see you. Tony D.